Off the shelf, the game is MBT, the game of modern tactical ground combat in Germany, Avalon Hill Game Company. So this off-the-shelf video is going to be a sampling. It's going to be a sampling of the MBT game. We're going to be sampling the basic game, which is just going to be tanks on tanks with the very basics of main gun direct fire. Alright, MBT basic game rules of play. Basic game setup and preparation for play. So the basic game scenario is recommended for new players and an introduction to the game. So we're going to sample this basic game scenario. Step 1, lay out map board panels 1, 2, and 3. The game comes with four map panels, so I'm going to set up panels 1, 2, and 3 according to this step 1. So real quickly about the maps. I am not an old-time war gamer. I'm not going to pretend and talk like an old-time war gamer, and I'm not going to assume anybody listening to me is an old-time war gamer, especially since I'm not. So just to explain, this is a map panel. This is a map panel. They have numbers up on the far side, but it doesn't matter for now. But this is map panel 1, 2, and 3. But unusually for somebody who's not played old-time war games, a map panel is actually it's equivalent to two 8.5 by 11 area sections, long way end to end. So it's one long map panel. Okay, and terrain is all pretty straightforward, although I will say that this actually resembles somewhat former West Germany, and I think in the basic game, even though you can clearly see that these elevations have multiple steps, I think in the basic game any hill hex is just one level above ground level, I believe. We'll get to that, but later on you can see we get more elevation detail. These are depressions. Otherwise, I think it's pretty straightforward. So the brown lines have the hash marks on the inside, so they're depressions, and then the green hash marks are elevations. So that's step 1. I set out my map board. Step 2 is we're going to place the turn record track on the information card near the map board and place the initiative marker on the 1 box. So let's figure out what that is. So it's a nice turn record track, very clearly. You can find that easily. It's on something called information card. This is an off-the-shelf video. This really is an off-the-shelf video. I am really stepping right into it without knowing anything in detail about the game. Obviously, I've heard good things about this original game, so that's why I'm trying to figure out what the talk is about. So clearly information card. What I find interesting though is that if I lay this to the side and I use the turn record track, that means I can't use the back, and the back has a bunch of marker abbreviations, data card format. That sure looks like a lot of information. Do you not use it? No. I clearly want to read this while I'm playing. So how do you do that? I have no idea how you do that, but luckily for me, I own 2 copies of the game. So I will still have access to the back side while I set one aside and use it as a turn record track. So next I got to find this initiative marker. So I will look for the initiative marker and I'll put it in the box number 1 on the turn record track. Okay, initiative marker shows NATO, US, and West German. On one side it says first, and on the back it says Soviet's red star and first. So I'm going to put that on the turn record track off to the side in the number 1 box. Now step 3, by any mutually agreeable method, of course I'm soloing here, but I'm still going to go through how you would do it face to face. Players will decide who commands each force and select the combat units and data cards required to play one of the matchups listed below. So they actually, it's kind of cool. This is just for the basic game. Right there, we have 4 setups or matchups, A, B, C, and D. I'm just going to start at the very top. So we have NATO 3 times M1A1, data card USA-1 Bravo versus Soviet 4 times T-64B, data card USSR -1 Bravo. So I'm going to start with 1 M1A1 and find the data card and grab 1 T-64 and grab that data card. So that's the matchup. So again, to finish up where I was, okay, also take 1 turret unit. It's funny it's called a turret unit, but 1 turret counter per combat unit. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do, and I'll show you what I'm starting with. So you have a bunch of, and actually this is twice the number, so I'll take half aside. So about that, you have these perforated cards. Yep. So all these cards, they come perforated. They easily separate. Just right there. I just separated it. So you get all these data cards for all the different units, the aircraft, the tanks, the field artillery, and the squads. So those are all of those. For here, I've got exactly as the basic game says. I've got USA-1 Bravo, which is the M1A1 Abrams main battle tank. So that's that data card. So I'm using that one, and then also the USSR-1 Bravo, the T-64 Bravo main battle tank. I've got its data card. All right, then let's do the. Now, I looked through my counters. I only find this, for example, this M1 tank. So I'm assuming the M1 counter, because on the back is an M60. So obviously, you're just using the counter like that for a scenario. So in my basic game here, I need an M1 A1. I think that all the variants, I'm assuming they use the same counter. I'm assuming they use the M1 counter. So there's my tank, and I also take 1 turret counter, and we've got a I think that's open hatch side and a buttoned up side. So I guess we'll start open hatch. So those two, that's my 1 US tank, and then again I look and I find again, so on the front of the counter there's a T-80 for a scenario that uses the T-80, and on the flip side we have a T-64/T-72, which again I'm going ahead and assuming that this side is used for any variant of a T-64 or a T-72. But in any case, we know that in the scenario it is exactly a T-64 Bravo, right there like that. Oh, look at that. Okay, they even help you out. All right, now I see. You actually get the picture of the counter with the number range. So 111 here is obviously within the 101 to 117 range. So, okay, all right, I figured it out correctly. All right, and then I grab a turret counter for the T-64 Bravo. There we are, 1 tank against 1 tank, ready to get into some action. All right, so step 4 of setup of the basic game. A player, I'm going to talk this through, but it's not going to matter here for my purposes. But a player on each side competitively rolls a die. So you'd have the NATO roll and the Soviet roll, repeating to break ties. The side with the high roll, so the Soviets would win that, picks a side you picks a side of the map, either that side or that side, in which to set up. The other side gets the opposite side of the board. Then you do another competitive die roll. Okay, and then it's the low number. So then side with the low roll, NATO gets that. Sets up so within 4 hexes of their side, and then the other side does the same. And you set up obviously with your turret counter on the AFV, Armored Fighting Vehicle counter, and then you're ready to start the basic game sequence of play.